Okay, here's the Evolution saw. General layout of what we see. You got your table, got the business end of things here, and a whole bunch of random parts. Fixturing jigs, these things. What I like about these is this little spring doesn't fly off of here, so good job, Evolution. That's one of those parts you pull out and then you lose those springs, so nice, those are stuck in there. Bolts, more bolts, and some screws. Basically all we're down to is a 13mm wrench, 10mm wrench. User's manual, and of course the saw blade that came with it. There's not a parts list in here when you first start out your instructions, which I was surprised about, so everything looks like it's there, I hope. Just start off right away building. So let's get to it. Take this guy, it's got holes in the back, line right up with these polished slide rails. Got a couple of Allen screws. And there is an Allen key, so right in the back. Right here, there's a fixed tool holder. So that's there. We got this long guide rail. Right in the front here. Then our little spring-loaded screws, set screws. That goes right below here. Bam and bam. There's a screw on the cover. It's finger tight already. This just pivots. Pull that back. And we gotta take out this assembly nut for the blade. On the front of the saw here, there's a button. So looking at the front of the saw now, right here, hold this button down when you are ready to change the blade. So we'll use our supplied Allen key, pull off our blade. There we go. Onto these fixturing jigs, threaded. Slide it on this guide rail. This notch is right on the rail here. This fixturing clamp looks like it has multiple positions it can be in. There's just one in the box. Right behind the bed here, there's several locations this can be inserted into. Okay, these three random pieces, I had no idea what they were for until now. Bam, three of them. They will fix right onto your fixturing jigs here. 1, 2, 3. Maybe, there we go. They slide right on. That way if you have pipe or an odd shape, that helps clamp. Hold this pin out. That saw adjustment, my bad. So you can have that all the way in, all the way back, or midpoint. Okay. It's all showing there's a trigger guard here. You have to toggle in order to pull the trigger. Okay. assembly is complete. Obviously still have to mount the blade, which they didn't walk through in the manual, so we'll go with that next. I don't see anything on the saw itself that says direction of rotation, but obviously assuming labeled out direction of rotation this way with the teeth making our cut, pushing the material back toward the saw, but nothing really specific on there. So we already got this nut off. Do wish there's a way to lock this guard open, the blade change, but I don't see anything really obvious. Use our blade lock on the other side to lock that into place. How tight? Tight enough. There we go. The wrench back so we can find it. Okay, I was really starting to wonder about all these extra parts I had after assembly. Looked like when I work on a car, and I always have parts left over. So, Evolution just supplies you hardware for whatever saw you end up with. So you've got these other options here. We have the 355 MCS, so we're only going to use a couple of the bolts supplied. And then it tells you which mounting holes to use for your saw of application. So that's what we're looking at there. 2 of the medium bolts and 2 of the short bolts. So out of all this stuff, we are only going to be using these 2 and these 2. Okay, it's not set up exactly as this picture is shown, but the longer bolts A1, you want to look on the table where these lines are running horizontal. A2s go back here, they're running vertical. So these A1s are the longer as compared to these shorter guys. So I've already done it once the wrong way, so let's try it again. I tried to set up the saw facing me and the wheels to the right there, but it did not work that way. So this way, then toward the front. Get these lines running vertically. Okay, so this is how I have mine finally set up with the wheels over here on the left hand side. On my front corner, right hand side, I look for these lines running vertically and the shorter carriage bolts insert up through. And on the left hand side of the saw, your lines right here running horizontal, and then it flip-flops on the back. You take your longer bolts, and these lines are running vertically on this corner, and use your longer bolt up and through the bottom, and then on the back left side these lines are horizontal. Stick the bolts up through the bottom, and they have a groove they fit into underneath, so you just tighten them from the top, and then you are done. So this thing's fully mounted up. I do believe if I remember correctly, the table weighs around 70 pounds. And the saw was around 72 pounds. So we'll do some moving this around, see how it feels being 140 pounds plus. Okay, the saw is mounted up and bolted down. I don't have a perfectly level floor, but it is a tiny bit wobbly. We'll try folding this thing up, making sure our supports are sucked in all the way. Loosening up our handles here. Pull out. And down. I just let that fall. I didn't try to catch it. I was just seeing how that hydraulic was. Now for lifting it up, squeeze. Then I'm just squeezing the handle on the table itself, and then I'm grabbing the handle of the saw and pulling up. table saw. Now it's locked. We'll lock these in. See how it moves around. But if it's set up and you need to move it, that is pretty light, pretty easy. I didn't have that attached very well, but probably not intended for that, but it's just a nice natural place to grab other than this one handle. I would honestly like a second handle here. That's instantly my first complaint. So the supplied handle, you can mount on either side here. I just think it would be nice to have a handle in either position, depending on where you want to grab it, or both at the same time. So you've only got that one option. The other thing I find funny is this table stops, and then the support that they labeled in their instructions, this is supposed to sit on the table itself too, so when you're sliding this back, it has support back here. And this is just hanging off the end of the table, so I think Evolution could really supply something that, I mean, there's obviously places to bolt to here, something that comes out and supports this. I mean, that's why you put it on there. When you have it on your workbench, this is touching the workbench for support, because you can pull this thing back, and when you're using the saw, you've got a lot of force back here. But unfortunately, they didn't put that on their table, so I may build something that kicks out for that support. Pull out, and then let it slide down. Really not too bad. That does hold the saw in place. I mean, that bottom bracket's a little bit wobbly down there, but I mean, it's gonna stay. I'm not worried about this thing tipping over. So that's pretty cool to have a saw with this capability to cut a lot of different shapes and heavy material and be able to store away like this. You do have the sacrifice of a little bit of a wobbly table, but I think once you have your device set up and your pieces clamped, I don't think it's going to be any problem. That setup is just super easy. I mean, to have that stored in the corner, be able to set up the saw like that, I think that's pretty sweet. As I was just tightening things up, I remembered that I had removed these knobs to put these bolts in, and first complaint I have is the proximity to these knobs with this bolt. I mean, yeah, I'm sure for ease of installation, having these longer bolts is easier, but I might end up cutting these off. Shortening these up would be a good improvement, because when you're trying to use these knobs, you're just hitting your fingers on them right away. Okay, let's cut something. I don't have a lot of material laying around at the moment, but I've got just a piece of 3/4 by 1/8 inch thick angle iron. Nothing too impressive, but we're just going to give it its first run. What I did notice is, so these guys, we're only going to clamp larger material, so I'm completely not using those. But being that this is super adjustable, I'm already a pretty big fan of this design. So I can put this anywhere I need it. And I was wondering if I was going to be able to clamp this, but it looks like I can. And it fits right on top of that angle, right against the bed, so that's pretty sweet. So there's my clamped piece of angle right there. When you cut a piece of angle iron, you have the point going up, so it's like a triangle. You do not lay it down flat, which they don't even show in this diagram. I do need to check the blade. They're more talking about centering the blade here. So you do not lay your angle down like this and bring the saw down on top of it. It'll cut quick through here, and then it'll bind up. Well, it will cut, but it'll take forever cutting this direction. Proper way to cut angle is just like this, saw coming down on top of it. When I bring the saw down, I am hitting here. So I need to move my adjustment point. See, I'm impacting right there. So just lessons learned with the saw. I'll flop this to the other side. Okay. Okay. Tighten that down. Good and tight. Let's try this again. Dry run here. And I'm still hitting. That's not working out too good for me. Looks like I'm gonna have to stay on that side of the saw. I really don't even know why there's options to put that adjustment over here, that clamp over here at all. Okay, I recognize this is just thin material, but that cut like butter. I was hardly pressing down on the blade. I did have a few chips come back and hit me. Nothing crazy, but definitely keep the safety eye gear on. Cool to the touch.
Okay, that wraps things up. For the small percentage of you who stuck it out to the end, thank you so much for watching. I know these build and unboxing videos can be quite boring, but if you found this useful, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and share with anyone. Have a great day.